Hello, my name is Michael Reginelli, and I'm the project coordinator of the Scratch Coalition, standing for Salem Cumberland Regional Action Towards Community Health, part of the Southwest Council. At the Southwest Council, our mission is to reduce alcohol and drug use amongst youth. And we cover Salem, Cumberland, and Gloucester counties, while the Scratch Coalition covers specifically Salem and Cumberland counties. Today, I'm going to talk about the drug whose use is most widespread in our counties, and it's also the drug that kills the most youth under the age of 21 every year in America. The drug that I'm talking about is alcohol. Some basics about alcohol. Now, it may be kind of weird to think about alcohol as a drug, as it's part of our culture. But alcohol is actually the drug that's contained in the beverages such as beer, wine, and hard liquor. It's also called ethanol. After someone drinks alcohol, it is absorbed through the walls of their stomach and intestines and enters into the bloodstream, where then it is taken straight to the brain. When it reaches the brain, alcohol acts as a depressant. A depressant is a kind of drug that slows down brain activity, and all the symptoms of alcohol use and all its effects are tied to this slowing down of brain activity. There are 4 types of drinking behavior that people engage in. The first type is abstinence. Abstinence is the total non-use of alcohol. About 30% of Americans don't drink at all. Now, there's many reasons that people give for not drinking, such as their religion prohibiting it. They might suffer from alcoholism and thus avoid drinking in order to avoid a relapse, or they might have an allergy to alcohol. And of course, some people just don't like the taste of alcohol or don't like the effect that alcohol has on them and just avoid drinking it simply because they don't like it. The next kind of drinking is ritual drinking. Ritual drinking is a very specific form of drinking that involves drinking alcohol in the context of a religious service, a family rite, a rite of passage, or marking special occasions. Some examples of this could be during church service or communion, Sabbath service, a bar mitzvah, a wedding toast, or even having a drink at New Year's when the ball drops, or having a drink with Thanksgiving. The next kind of drinking is social drinking. And social drinking is a bit of a misnomer. You might think that social drinking is really drinking in the presence of friends or going out to drink at a bar. Those things can be included, but social drinking also includes things like having a beer while watching the game or having a glass of wine with dinner. Its real definition is actually social drinking is when it's appropriate to the time and place. Many Americans call themselves social drinkers and consider themselves social drinkers, and it is the most common behavior type when it comes to drinking. The last kind of drinking behavior is compulsive or problem drinking. This is when alcohol is used in a way of attempting to cope with problems or negative feelings. It involves drinking too much, too often, and can be destructive and frequently increases a person's problems. Problem drinking is also when people binge drink too much, even if it is not a pattern of binge drinking. Even one binge drinking session that goes too far can cause these sort of problems and be considered problem drinking. And any kind of drinking and driving is also considered problem drinking. What does alcohol actually do to the body and brain? In small doses, alcohol will slow down the ability to think clearly and make good decisions. It also makes the drinker feel a little bit more relaxed and can make them feel a little bit more loose, a little bit more daring than they usually do, more open to experience. In larger doses, alcohol begins to slow down other parts of the brain. This involves the nervous system and areas that involve balance, so people can become dizzy, less coordinated. It slows down reaction time. It can make it more difficult to speak, to walk, or to stay awake. This is where a lot of the slurred speech and stumbling comes from. It can cause emotional behavior as it slows down the brain's ability to emotionally regulate, and it can even cause people to pass out. Heavy drinking in one session causes people to pass out and can even cause people to temporarily lose their ability to form memories, a phenomenon that's usually referred to as blacking out. Some of these effects on the brain then lead to behavioral effects, which include fighting and arguing and other kinds of violence, talking loudly or more than usual. People, when they drink a lot, tend to have a harder time hearing and a harder time regulating the volume of their voice, so they're more likely to talk a lot or to talk more loudly to be heard. Can lead to obnoxious behavior as our social regulations we place on ourselves start to slip away. It can cause silliness and giggling or general giddiness as well. So what are adults' relations with alcohol? What percentage of American adults drink alcoholic beverages? The percentage is actually 70%. As we heard before when I was talking about abstinence, about 30% of Americans don't drink at all. Now, in terms of an estimate, the percentage of people who drink to excess and experience trouble when they drink, about 10% of adults are heavy drinkers, which means either they tend to binge drink with some regularity or they drink every day, multiple drinks a day. Now, when it comes to teens' relation with alcohol, things are a little bit different. Alcohol is the most commonly used and abused drug in the United States, and especially amongst youth, though youth do use at lower numbers than adults do. Excessive drinking is responsible for more than 4,300 deaths among underage youth every year and cost the United States $24 billion in economic costs in 2010. And when I say underage youth, I'm referring to the legal drinking age of 21 in the United States. And although drinking by persons under the age of 21 is illegal, people aged 12 to 20 years old drink 11% of all alcohol consumed in the United States. More than 90% of this alcohol is consumed in the form of binge drinking. And on average, underage drinkers consume more drinks per drinking occasion than adult drinkers. They're less likely to, say, have a single beer while watching a game or have a single glass of wine with dinner as their way of consuming alcohol. They're more likely to drink multiple drinks at parties or to binge drink when they are drinking. And in 2013, there were approximately 119,000 emergency room visits by persons aged 12 to 21 for injuries and other conditions linked to alcohol use. So let's take a look at some other stats about the drinking levels amongst youth. Some of the ones that I just talked about, you can see were back from 2013 or earlier, so there's some that are a little bit more updated. The 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Survey found that among high school students during the past 30 days, 30% had drank some amount of alcohol, 14% had engaged in binge drinking, and 6% had driven after drinking alcohol, and 17% had rode with a driver that had been drinking alcohol. We can see that the rate of use is lower amongst youth than it is amongst adults, which we would hope for it being illegal, but it is still pretty high. Some other national surveys include the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, which reported in 2016 that 19% of youth aged 12 to 20 drink alcohol and 12% reported binge drinking the past 30 days. That's a little bit lower than the study I just read, but it also covers a wider age range. Instead of just covering high school students, it covers students between the ages of 12 and 20. And those younger students do drink less, as we can see with this next survey, the 2017 Monitoring the Future survey, which reported that 8% of eighth graders reported drinking alcohol in the last 30 days, as did 33% of high school seniors. It also reported that 2% of eighth graders and 19% of high school seniors binge drank in the past 30 days. What we see from this is that while drinking is more dangerous for those younger youth, we really see drinking really start in the late middle school years and pick up a lot of steam as they go through high school. So we see relatively small amounts of youth drinking in middle school, and then by the time they reach high school seniors, we see about a third of youth drinking. Now, underage drinking presents special problems that either are not present amongst adult drinkers or which are not as severe amongst adult drinkers. Youth who drink alcohol are more likely to experience school problems than other youth, such as higher absence and poor or failing grades. They're more likely to experience social problems as well, ranging from fighting, lacking participation in youth activities, losing interest in things that used to hold their interest, and falling out with friends they had before they began drinking. It can also lead to legal problems, such as arrest for drunk driving, physically hurting someone while drunk, getting into fights, or simply being arrested for being caught in possession of alcohol, being caught drunk while underage, or attempting to buy alcohol or using a fake ID. It It also leads to physical problems such as hangovers or other illnesses, and can lead to unwanted, unplanned, or unprotected sexual activity. And on that note, it also raises the risk of being a victim of physical or sexual assault. Alcohol actually stunts a person's growth. And as adolescents are still developing, they're still growing, this is a problem that is unique to them that doesn't really affect adults. It actually impairs sexual development and actually stunts their physical growth and development. It puts youth at a higher risk for suicide and homicide. And of course, alcohol-related car crashes and other intentional injuries, such as burns, falls after stumbling, drowning if they drink and then try to go swimming while drunk, and other kinds of accidents. Drinking leads to memory problems, both when someone is drunk and also overall, as it impairs the functioning of the parts of the brain that record memories long-term. Underage drinking can also lead to the abuse of other drugs, not really as a gateway drug, but when someone is out at a party and they're drunk, they have lowered ability to make good decisions. They're more open to risk taking. And so then if there is another drug at that party, they're more likely to try it than if they were sober. It also causes changes in brain development that may have lifelong effects. In fact, it can greatly raise their risk of developing an alcohol use disorder later in life. When the brain is still developing until someone reaches the age of 21, and when it's developing in the presence of alcohol, it then develops in a way that assumes that alcohol will be there, which increases dependency. There's a statistic that says that youth who begin drinking before the age of 15 are about 7 times more likely to develop a drinking problem than people who wait until they turn 21 before they drink. And of course, death from alcohol poisoning is the greatest risk. In general, the risk of youth experiencing these problems is greater for those who binge drink rather than those who do not binge drink and maybe only engage in that ritual drinking that we talked about before as part of a religious service, or maybe have a glass of wine with dinner once in a great while. Though even that social drinking, it still has negative effects on youth. So standard serving sizes, and this is an area where people often get confused when they think about how many drinks they might have in one night, which is important because a lot of what I've been talking about talks about numbers of drinks. Binge drinking, for instance, is defined as 4 drinks over a 2-hour period for women, or 5 or more drinks over a 2-hour period for men. So what is the standard serving size for a shot of hard liquor, like vodka, rum, tequila, bourbon, or other things like that? And when I talk about hard liquor, I'm talking about 80 proof liquor, not some of these higher content spirits. Well, the standard drink size for that is 1/2 ounces, which is about the standard shot glass. But since shot glass come in different kinds of shapes and sizes, you can't rely on just the full shot to tell you what's going on. The standard serving size for a glass of wine that's about a 7 or 8% alcohol content is actually 5 ounces. Fortified wines, they're stronger wines at around 15%, would be less than that. A bottle or glass of beer, and again, this is like the standard alcohol content for beer of around 5%. One drink would be 12 ounces, which is convenient because most bottles of beer are 12 ounces. So that's actually the easiest one to measure how much somebody is getting. Now the question is, does each standard drink equal one another? And the answer is yes. That 1.5 ounce shot of alcohol, of tequila or vodka, is the same amount of alcohol as a 5 ounce glass of red wine or a 12 ounce Miller Lite. One standard drink is actually 0.6 fluid ounces of 100% ethanol. So you can see that bottle of beer, that glass of wine, that shot are all equivalent. And of course, it gives that measure as well. The wine, I did kind of lowball it a little bit there. We measure it as 12% alcohol as the standard glass. Some sweeter wines are lower, and you probably have a little bit more of that, but 5 ounces is really what you want to go by. As you can see with the red Solo cups, they actually have different lines on them that can be used to measure. So that top line there actually is the level of 12 ounces of beer. If someone pours a bottle of beer into the Solo cup, that's where the liquid actually goes once the head comes off of it. And that's a good measure for where the 12 ounces of beer would be for a standard drink. Malt liquor is stronger than beer typically, and that would be at that middle line. The line below that is for the 5-ounce glasses of wine. And then that lower bottom lip is about equal to 1 ounce of hard liquor. So not a perfect measure for that 1.5 ounce standard drink, but close to it. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you've learned something today and this has been a useful use of your time, learning a little bit more about alcohol, how it affects youth, and how it impacts our society. Thank you, and have a great day.